Welcome to the CMO Spotlight, and I'm so excited today to have the Chief Marketing Officer of Emmy Squared, Sergio Perez.
Enterprise perspective, and that feels quite broad, but I'll get a little bit specific in terms of what that means for me. One, don't be afraid of the numbers and to sort of think like a CFO a little bit. I think oftentimes marketers again get caught in this sort of creative piece, but really start to think about the business from an economic standpoint, I think is a critical piece, and building that acumen around like reading a restaurant P&L, understanding the drivers of the restaurant. How do you drive top line and help operations flow it through to the bottom line? Thinking about return on investment and how you flow that through, I think is critical. Two is around in that enterprise perspective, curiosity. I think marketers need to consistently be curious about the business, ask questions. What are the drivers? What are the trends? What are customers saying? And then third is, actually being in restaurants. I think it's easy to sort of sit in an office. It's easy to, work on PowerPoints and presentations and be in meetings. But some of the best learning you can have is like talking to the employees at the restaurants, talking to customers in terms of, people who are sitting in the dining room. And so if I had a bit of a do-over, I think I would focus on that enterprise perspective, building good financial acumen, two, being curious about the business, and then three, spending a lot more time in restaurants, because there's no better place to learn about the brand and your customer than actually being in this space where you can watch them interact with the brand and the food, which a lot of folks don't get an opportunity from an industry's perspective. You can actually sit in a restaurant and actually see what's happening in real time. Complex systems and or concepts and synthesizing them in a way that everywhere from like a GM at a restaurant to like a board member can understand. And so the ability to take some of those more complex digital systems and translating them into a way that people understand is critical. I think a lot of our job as marketers is to communicate clearly and make sure that we share very succinct, easy to understand messages, both from consumers, but also stakeholders around the organization. And so being able to take difficult concepts or situations and making them easy to understand, I think is important. And I feel like that's been a place where I've been able to make some headway. I place a high value on, being close to the business in terms of this enterprise perspective. I think it's important for marketers to articulate the business and to understand the business. And so that's an important value for me too. We talked about curiosity and the importance of that. You want people to ask questions. You want people to question why we do things and how we do things. And so curiosity is important. And then three, I think particularly in the restaurant industry, is about moving at the pace of restaurants. Those would be the three things that I look for in terms of restaurant marketers. I'll take you back to Johnny Rockets before digital was as cool. And so this was 2016. And the reason it was an important lesson is we were working on a pretty big brand refresh, new logo, new restaurant design, new menu, you name it. And we thought a cool way for us to communicate that new restaurant design and menu was to hire an AR company to create an AR walkthrough of the restaurant and the experience. We thought this is pretty cool. People are going to love this. We spent a good amount of money building this experience. We built a plan, we launched it, it was everywhere, and it was something like 20 people actually accessed this experience through the course of that campaign. And so you sat there and thought about, you go through the postmortem, what went wrong. And so the headline there for us is we also need to move at the speed of the consumer. And oftentimes it's easy to get enamored by a fancy new technology. In this case, I would say something like AI or ChatGPT or some of the AI image generator images. It's sort of the same, concept, but now modernized. And it was about making sure that we're moving at the speed of consumer and making sure that when we're leveraging emerging technologies, that there's actually a meaningful use case for it, and that there's wide adoption of this new emerging technology to make sure that it actually will drive a result. And oftentimes, again, we think as marketers, oh, this is a sexy new thing, I'm going to go all in. And then consumers aren't ready, right? And so it's making sure that we balance trends and emerging technologies, which was actually happening with consumers, to make sure that you maximize the usage and the return on those kinds of activities. Whataburger, for me, has always been a brand that I've admired, not only because, they're just a good Texas brand. And what I mean by that is, look, they work hard, they do the right thing, they take care of their customers, they take care of their employees. The marketing is always culturally very relevant. They know where the conversation is and they go towards that, but they're also part of the culture. And so they are inherently part of what the Texas way is. And then just overall flavor. I mean, they nail it every time in terms of bringing Texas flavor to consumers in new, modern ways. And so I've always been a big fan of that team over there, but also been a big fan of the brand and how they've evolved and grown. Miracle on Ice. And so it's a story of the 1980s Olympic team, right? When you think about the underdog and, you think about everybody discounting you and saying, oh, you're not going to be able to do X, or, oh, you can't compete. One of the things I love about challenger brands is you take that sort of underdog spirit and you use it to fuel the fire in terms of developing better work, being more nimble, being more creative. And so for me, Miracle on Ice is a good reminder of, like, the underdog is, it's not a bad thing to be an underdog. And in many ways, it could be a good competitive advantage from a business and a marketing standpoint.